So what we're going to be talking about today is mastering the art of membership growth and continuing the theme of what Jill and I spoke about earlier. We're going to continue on this thread of empowering your staff to do really new and amazing and great things and increasing the impact of your movement. And we're going to continue the other theme of me kind of setting the stage and sharing a little bit about what lead management is in Salesforce if you're not using it today, and then giving, exiting stage left a bit and sitting in the wings and letting Jeremy walk you through the amazing things that they're doing with leads down there at Memphis, at the Memphis Y. So to get us started, what we're going to be talking about is, mastering the art of membership. Jeremy's going to share a little bit about where they've been with lead management, where they were in the past. Some of you, if you were here last year, you remember we talked a little bit about lead management then. So we're going to kind of share a little bit of where they've been and set the stage. We're going to talk about what they've been working on over the last year, and then a little bit about where they're going, and then a little bit of time for questions at the end there. So most of y'all know me, Jason Doberlecki, manager of engagement here at Traction Rec, joined by Jeremy, vice president of operations at YMCA of Memphis and the Mid-South. I'm going to give Jeremy a chance to introduce him a little bit more in depth in just a few moments as we jump into his slides. So what is it that's setting the stage for us to really talk about lead management today? So, we've kind of got the pandemic a bit in our rearview mirror, right? Largely the pandemic is over. We've gone through this climb of getting members back in the door and re-engaging them. And while we are seeing members come back in the door, there's another pandemic that has kind of been left in the wake, right? There's this pandemic of loneliness, of people wanting to have that kind of reconnection back to the community. So our movements, the JCC, the YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, all of our movements are really, really well positioned to be that center of connections and for people to get back into their community and get reconnected with their neighbors and with small groups. We're also trusted partners, of course. We've all been around for many years, and we are definitely seen as trusted organizations in our community. We are seen as trusted organizations to partner with to make impacts on our communities across the country. And we are also seen as safe spaces for all. So building on that trust, building on that desire for connections, people see the Y, the J, Boys and Girls Club as that place where they can come in, get connected with other people and build those relationships with staff and with their neighbors. We have to extend that feeling of trust and that feeling of welcomeness onto our websites as well. So in order to take a bit of a different approach to our websites, we have to have them be easy to find. We have to have great SEO, people easily discoverable and easy to navigate our websites. They have to be more than just a billboard, right? You can't have someone just land on the homepage and say, here's information about camp, here's information about childcare, here's information about membership, without any clear and concise action steps, things that they're supposed to do, things that you want them, content that you want them to engage with, and ways to collect information about who it is that's landing on that page and what they're wanting to do. We have to have consistent and timely engagement. So once they do land on the site and they say, hey, I want to join, or I'm interested in camp or childcare, making sure that we're quickly responding to them and we don't have days going by where they don't hear back from us. And then a defined process and mapped cultivations. And what I mean by that is once someone raises their hand and says, hey, I'm interested in camp or I'm interested in membership, what does that engagement process look like? How do we reach out to them after that? When they come in for a tour and they take a tour and they say at the end of that tour, yeah, I need to go home and speak it over with my spouse. what is the defined touch points after that? How do we reach out to them and say, hey, do you have any questions? What else do you need? What other information do you need to join? And how do we welcome you and connect you with the why? And that's where lead management comes into play. All of these tools, right? So from the landing page, from time someone lands on your website, filling out a web to lead form. So filling out their name and their email address and saying, yeah, I'm interested. I want to get a guest pass. So they submit that form and it emails them a guest pass so that they can come in and try the Y, or they can come in and take a tour. Lead scoring, automated personalized responses, campaign assignments, activity tracking, and just lots and lots of data all along the way. So just like case management, we're really standing this up so that we can understand where are those entry points that people are coming in as a lead. How effective are we at cultivating that lead and moving them from a discovery, from an interest stage to a learning and discovery stage of taking a tour and finding out about our programs, to that stage of actually committing and saying, yes, I want to be a part of this. I want to join. I want to be part of the Y, the J, the Boys and Girls Club, be part of this movement. And I'm going to hand it over to Jeremy, tell you a little bit about himself and share what they've got going on in Memphis and all the exciting things they're doing there.
Great. Jason, can everybody hear me? I think I'm good.
Yeah, you're good. We got
Perfect.
you.
Great. Hey, thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Jason. I'm excited to spend some time with you guys and kind of explain what we're doing here in Memphis. We by no means are the experts, but we think we figured a few things out since COVID. And so we've been asked to kind of share some of those things occasionally. So I'm happy to do that this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are. But so a little bit about me. I am the Vice President of Operations here with the YMCA of Memphis in the Mid-South. So I work directly with our 11 full service centers in the greater Memphis area. I have two senior executive directors that work beneath me. And also I oversee our two external sales reps. And so that you'll hear a little bit more about that, but that is a structure and a staffing model that we went to just after COVID or as we were wrapping up COVID, depending on your part of the country. And so we're doing some different things here, but I work directly with those guys. I've been with the Y for 11 years in October. So I've been here a minute, and I have a sales and marketing background in for-profit, which is kind of where some of my lens on some things comes from that we'll talk about later. And then just kind of randomly, I do live in a 110-year-old farmhouse in Bartlett, Tennessee, which is a suburb of Memphis. I don't know if you think that's crazy or interesting, but I think it's interesting. So I like to share that as well.
I find that fascinating personally.
So as we were in Memphis in the Mid-South, we were just kind of coming out on sort of the tail end of the height of the COVID pandemic. As a lot of people, we took a serious hit. We dropped probably 50 to 60% of our membership from our previous high, which was in 2019, ironically enough. But this conversation around membership growth and intentional membership growth, as we call it in Memphis, was something that really started prior to the COVID pandemic. And really the theme with me and some of our other leaders here in the association was that hope couldn't be a strategy for us anymore to help get people in our doors, having an excellent guest experience, and then convincing them that the Y was a place for them and their families. And so we began down this rabbit hole, if you will, of applying a sales culture, or as I mentioned, I came from a for-profit minor league baseball experience primarily, but this idea of intentional membership growth and intentional sales approach and culture, what would that look like at our Ys? How does that manifest itself? How do we go from where we are to where we need to be? And we were kind of beginning those conversations, and then all of a sudden, COVID hit, right? And as I said, kind of took our legs out from underneath us a little bit from a membership base, as it did with all of us across the industry, not with Ys, not just with Ys, obviously. But as we were lucky enough to survive the COVID pandemic in a relatively healthy place due to the hard work of a lot of people, we began to refocus on our membership base, not only growing that, but understanding what that meant, what kind of structure was going to set us up for long-term success from a membership growth. And really, we adopted this phrase of we don't want to recapture or re-get members. We want to grow membership because whether we're talking about the depths of COVID or our previous high in 2019, we as an organization believe that we want to grow membership. And so that's what really led us to a place of engaging our friends at Traction and beginning to think through what tools might be available to help us come alongside this vision and this strategy to be able to grow membership. So Jason, if you want to flip that next one, thank you. Yeah, so I'm a data guy. Again, I came from a for-profit industry. And so my belief was that, and our belief here in Memphis was that what gets measured gets done. And so one of the first things that we did was we said, hey, we want to understand and we want to try and capture the bodies that are coming into our door, regardless of whether we're capturing them and getting them to join or not. But really, what is our traffic patterns? How many bodies are coming into our door? What does that kind of look like? And so it began on what you see as a dashboard, working with Traction as we begin developing this project and saying, hey, we want to find a partner in Traction that knows this language, that doesn't necessarily care about how Ys have operated in the past, but really what does it Y operate moving forward, using data, using analytics, using these types of things. So as we begin to build this tool, one of the first things we built with our friends at Traction was really this idea of where are our leads coming from. So as people are interacting with us, whether that be through our website, through walking in our doors, through calling our centralized call center, which we operate on. What does that look like? What are those people asking about? What centers are they walking into? How many of those have we had over the last 7 days? How many of those have received a tour? How many of those people walked into our Cordova Family YMCA versus our Fogelman Downtown YMCA? And so we really just wanted to try and get a net around the bodies, the traffic, and where they were coming from and how good of a job we were doing in that space. For example, if we thought, well, if we have 100 people walking into our Fogelman Downtown Y and only 2 of them join, we're doing a really poor job of that, right? But if we have 100 people walking into our door and we have 75 people that join, well, then we're doing a good job of that. So we got to kind of get a baseline of where we are. And that's what led, excuse me, to the development of the tool that you see on your screen around just capturing our leads, finding out who's coming in what centers, and in what ways and sources are they coming into our centers. So that's what you see there. So the second part of that is really this idea about once we know where leads are coming from and where they're going, we want to try and quantify those leads and say how many of those leads were captured, as you see in the top left-hand screen, how many of those leads were captured in the last 60 days, how many leads were unclaimed versus claimed. At the beginning of this project, we actually introduced our center leaders. A lot of people in YMCA call these guys executive directors. They're the people that are the directors of particular full service centers. We call them center directors here in Memphis. And so we actually engaged our center directors to say, hey guys, when we start capturing leads, which is essentially what people that are interested in hearing more about the Y, whether they walked in our doors or called in our call center or engaged with us online, we're going to start handing those people off to you. And so the idea is that we're going to engage our center directors in an external sales acquisition process. And we're going to start tracking that. So we had used the net to capture who and where people were coming from. Then we took the step of assigning those people. So if Jason walks into our Fogelman Downtown Y, we want the center director of our Fogelman Downtown Y to, if Jason doesn't join, to be able to reach out to him and say, Jason, I understand you took a tour the other day. What did you think? Did you get a chance to talk to your significant other about that? What are the barriers that are stopping you from joining? And so we really wanted to start capturing how effective we were doing in claiming leads, reaching out to leads, What kind of traffic or touch points could we produce? You'll see on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, the leads untouched for more than 3 days. One of the metrics that we wanted to use is that we know activity patterns are based really on promptness. And so if Jason and his family walked into one of our centers and for whatever reason did not join that day, we want to reach out to Jason within 3 days and kind of that follow-up and say, what did you think? Or what are some barriers? Or did you get a chance to look at your finances or your bill pay schedule or whatever the case may be? And so we really started absorbing those leads, organizing those leads, distributing those leads to our center directors, and kind of training our center directors to say, hey, these are some best practices from a sales perspective. This is how we want to represent our why and things like that. And what I will say is that we knew, or we thought, that the center directors owning that effort was probably not the end result of this sales culture that we wanted to implement. But we felt it was important to develop the tool with, again, our friends at Traction around the leads management gathering piece of it. And then as we engage our center directors to utilize this tool that you see with our leads dashboard, it essentially would track the traffic of those leads and the touch points of those leads and conversations of those leads. Knowing that our center directors were not exactly salespeople, but they were pretty darn close. And so we began to track the traffic patterns and touch points. And so we ultimately knew, Jason, if you want to go ahead and flip that screen, we ultimately knew that this was kind of where we wanted to go. So for several years, we had talked about in Memphis this idea of potentially hiring sales people to come into our Y and just focus on membership acquisition. And our idea was pretty aggressive with this. Again, this was my background. So I said, hey, why don't we look into the sales industry to try and find some people that could own this effort? We're going to pay them a base salary that's competitive, but not great. And we're going to highly incentivize them through a commission or incentive structure here in Memphis based on their performance. And so, again, just to reiterate, we had built the lead generation and the lead capturing tool. We had sort of vetted part 2 of that process with our center directors and owning that initial sales effort. Then we got to the point where we realized that our center directors were not the perfect people to be owning that sales culture and that sales effort, primarily due to the fact that they just have so many other responsibilities. If you've ever run a full service facility, you know that the second you walk in the door, the pool heaters are broken, or the lights may be off, or there was a fight in the gym, or, you know, a treadmill threw Miss Betty off, and you got to deal with that. And so they weren't really able to just fully hone in on driving those leads that we had captured into our centers. And so we got to go ahead to hire 2 sales associates, is what we call them, sales reps. They come from for-profit industries. One was in insurance sales for a long, long time. The other owned their own business for a while, and before that was actually working for a telecommunications company here in Memphis as a sales rep in that space. So we felt like we got 2 really good people that knew the sales world, knew how to engage with people and build relationships with people and do that. And so we kind of meshed our sales reps with this tool that we have and are currently using to this day. So a couple of things that we gauge here in Memphis, and you'll see on the screen there, but just on that top left of the panel on the far left of your screen, new memberships this month. So you'll see by center, you'll see those centers broken down here in Memphis. And then the different bars, that light green bar is actually the unclaimed people that have come into our centers and are joining. And the kind of darker green bar, the smaller bar, is actually the activity of our salespeople. And so we kind of break it down in those terms. We treat our salespeople kind of like a center, if that makes sense, and gauge their performance against other centers. We do goal set all of our centers and our sales reps. We see, if you see the panel below that, new memberships by day for the year, we actually track how many people have joined our facility every day this year to be able to gauge traffic patterns and things like that. On the panel to the right of your screen, you'll see active units last month and this month. We use a lot of last month and this month to gauge. We have started capturing historical knowledge going back 3 or 4 years to kind of gauge and goal set our folks. And we really, I'm happy to announce, I know I have a few more slides to get through, but we had a goal last year to get back to 19,000 units. And we have actually accomplished that goal as of a couple of months ago. So we're really happy about that. The numbers that you see there, that 18,413 is not including one of our centers that is actually still operating in a DAXCO platform. Long story, you can call me and I'll tell you about that if you want to, but we have achieved our goal. And so we're anxiously looking forward to kind of next year's goal. And Jason, you can go ahead and flip that screen if you'd like. And so this is kind of a dashboard that we use with our sales reps specifically. So this is just for our 2 sales reps. Their names are Amber and Brandon. It gauges a lot of the same information that we capture with our centers, just in a little different platform. One of the things that we are doing that's working pretty well is we actually will only pay incentive on sales that our sales reps make for units that draft a certain amount of months. So if one of my sales reps sells Jason and his family a membership and they sign up, they have to draft for a couple of months before my salesperson will actually get paid off of that, right? So it's one of the ways that we hold our people accountable, but also implement a longevity strategy and an engagement strategy within our sales. And so this is just some of the metrics that you see with our sales reps of kind of their performance and things like that. And Jason, I think some numbers on the next slide, I think is some really, okay. So this is a little different. Yep, there we go. So so you may be kind of wondering, hey, this is kind of interesting, or at least hopefully you think are ours. But what we've done is that we are capturing a large amount of leads. We are, we call it farming. That's probably not the best word for it, but we are navigating, having conversations, building relationships with this large funnel of leads. And we're able to really pinpoint what approach is working, what approach is not working. For example, do our sales reps, the leads that our sales reps specifically touch, do they have a higher conversion rate than people that just wander into our Ys off the street unprompted? Does that experience look different? Is that conversion rate different? What we're finding is, yes, it is different. And so we strive to put a touch point on every lead that comes into our center. One of the things that we are doing, because we have seen such success, as of right now, our sales reps are currently producing roughly 35 to 40% of our overall membership acquisition thus far this year. We brought those guys on board in August of last year. They immediately began producing at a pretty high level. And so they've continued that. That shows consistency. And so we're looking to expand that effort, but that 35% is really, really high and really kind of above where we thought we would be. So we are actively looking to expand our sales staff. The second thing we really want to focus on is just getting more leads. You know, as firm as we may be on capturing leads, there are certain people that have interactions with us that we don't know about, and we don't like that. Not in a creepy or big brother kind of way. We want to know if you have a touch point with us as much as physically possible. So if you Google us, if you interact with us on social media, if you call any of our centers or call center, if you jump on our website, certainly if you walk into one of our centers, we want to know who you are and what you're interested in, and be able to have those really engaging conversations about why the Y is the place for you. And so we're doing a great job of capturing leads. We have a goal to capture roughly 1,500 to 2,000 leads every 60 days. That actually gives my sales team more leads than they can possibly manage, which is a good problem to have. And so we have a goal of capturing that amount of leads. And if we are able to ultimately do that, we feel like that would give us roughly 24 to 25,000 leads over the course of a year. If you apply the current conversion percentage of 35% or our targeted of 40, we feel like that gives us some really significant membership growth to be able to continue to, as I mentioned at the top of our time together, grow membership. And so those are kind of our focuses moving forward. And then last but not least, we recognize that not every lead or person has an interaction with one of our sales team, that sometimes Jason and his family are just going to come in off the street. And so we want to make sure that that interaction replicates a really intentional sales experience as much as possible. So we continue to strive, as we all do, to work on internal sales with our frontline team members to provide an excellent guest experience and make sure people know that the Y is a great place for them, regardless of who they talk to, whether it's a sales rep or one of our frontline team members.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jeremy. We're coming up on time. I do want to ask you one question, real quickly. You mentioned a call center earlier. And one of the things that I find fascinating about Y of Memphis is your strategy of centralization, right? You've got these centralized sales reps, a centralized call center. What's the driver behind that strategy, and just how is that working out for y'all?
Yeah, well, the call center was actually something that we were brainstorming prior to COVID, and it really it was a quality control situation, right? We all know that if you have 11 centers and you have 20 front desk people that work at each of those centers, it's a high volume of centers and a variety of people that can pick up the phone. And so what we found is that if we're able to really funnel phone interactions into a smaller group of people, we could provide a better customer experience. The second thing is we wanted our frontline team members in our centers to focus on the members that were at the desk. We all have been that member that you're trying to scan in, you just have a quick question and the phone rings and the person picks it up, and you just kind of maybe feel like that attention is not directly on you. And so really twofold, the call center is working great for us. It certainly has its challenges, but we've been really happy with it. The response to COVID was that project moved quicker than we wanted it to, but that was okay. That is something we've kept through the back end of COVID, and we're really happy with that call center model.
Excellent. If anybody wants to learn more about that, I'm sure we'd be happy to do some follow-up conversations. A lot of that is driven with Salesforce Service Cloud as well, but just some really, really cool things that the Memphis Y is doing. So,
thank you.
Yeah, and I really love that we ended. Sorry, I'm going to jump in. I really love that we ended the user conference with this presentation, Jeremy, because I know we asked you to do this a very similar topic last year at our user conference, and I got the benefit of getting to meet you in person and seeing some of the challenges and the dreams that you had last summer, and almost feels like a bit of a benchmark. And it's incredible how far you guys have come with what those ideas were. So it's just it shows you have that first implementation, but there's still so much more that you can leverage from Salesforce and the rec product. So
absolutely, we're really excited about where we're going with this. So appreciate the partnership. We're enjoying it.